my gosh, what has happened? This little thing has just dropped into your feed. Some of you are saying, I can't believe it's back. Others are saying, Scrollies? What's that? Today, we are back on Scrollies. I'm here with Squat Cobbler.
It is I am also back, and my back is reclined, ready to get into another discussion, Ratnado.
Very good, very good. And as our kind of like a return, hey, thank you for sticking with us, keeping this in your feed. We've heard from a lot of you that have been missing Scrollies, and we decided it was time to bring it back. And who better to bring it back with than today with our guest, third-time Scrollies guest, to talk about second-person games, one CinnaMANToast. Welcome.
Hello. I'm like so freaking excited. I was so honored to be back here. I am still honored, by the way. Just that hasn't changed yet.
I mean, considering your last two topics, single player and multiplayer games, cover
basically everything.
Every game in existence. The fact that you're back on just means that we wanted you here. We really didn't have to, CinnaMAN. But
yeah, like the begging and the pleading and the screaming and the crying and the everything, like that had nothing to do with it. It was pure willpower that you guys wanted me here.
I will say the roses on my doorstep were a nice touch. That touched me, but I'm not really sure they factored into you get back on the podcast. But it's good to have you here again.
Of course, absolutely. Rat, you'll be getting your heart-shaped chocolate soon. There was something.
Oh no, they're here.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad.
The champagne was a nice touch.
Yeah, I tried. That was the wife's idea.
Man, okay, yeah, and that was the clincher. We're just like, all right, Cinna, we're back, baby.
Rose, how did he know?
How did he know? Yeah, exactly.
I just knew.
Well, CinnaMAN, you've always been a great supporter of us. I'm so glad that you're excited to be on Scrollies.
Of course.
And as such, as kind of Squat Cobbler there was talking about, we really plumbed the depths of our creativity to talk about how do we get something that's in topic with the other ones. Where else do we go? Today, the topic that we're talking about, as I said before, second-person gaming. For those of you that know, I'm a linguist, and so I'm gonna explain to you really quick. Obviously, first person is I did this, I'm gonna do that. Third person, that's where you're another person or from that perspective of behind them. So second-person gaming, what exactly does that mean? It's seeing someone else do something, someone that you're talking to. In a way, you might say you, Scrollies listener, is in the second person.
Ooh.
That's right, listener. You are the topic of this conversation. I hope you enjoy as we discuss you.
Sit back, relax, and hear all about you.
As we discuss you. Let's go, CinnaMAN. Let's talk about the Scrollies listener. Aren't they amazing?
They're great. Sitting at a whopping 6'4", weighing at a healthy 212 pounds, 80% muscle, 20% fat, all in the places that it matters. Healthy diet, 8 hours of sleep every single night, a great social life, loving friends and family, kid expected on the way with that obvious like lover of theirs that we all know that they have.
Exactly. Amazing.
Yeah, with the fat stacks of cash that is just accumulating interest every single day. That's you guys. You could be if you just subscribe to the Scrollies podcast, that could be you.
Wow, that's an inspiration right there. I want to go subscribe right now.
Did you write that? Is that off the cuff?
No.
Amazing. Incredible. I don't want to go with that topic now. We're defining it a little bit different, but that was beautiful.
We're just going into like prosperity gospel bullcrap. Every day can be a Friday. Listen to the Scrollies podcast.
Oh, Lord. Where we just sit there. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe that's our spin-off. If we just sit there, we just like ASMR, where we're just like, you are powerful.
You are everything you need to be.
You are strong.
You are beautiful.
But narrated by Squat Cobbler, so you feel like, oh, wow. Squat believes in me. Okay, I can do it.
I do, listener. And as a matter of fact, don't tell the others this, but you're my favorite. Shh. Keep it secret.
Keep it safe.
We'll have to explore that then outside of this. But as for today, second-person gaming, there is not a genre. There are some gimmicks that some games have done with that. But also what's really interesting and what's really important, I think, is a lot of us were shaped very much by the games we watched other people play, the ones before maybe we even knew how to hold a controller, before we understand what an objective was. And that's a little bit of what we're talking about today. As always, the icebreaker, CinnaMAN, are you ready?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Question, what was the first game you recall watching someone else play that wasn't yourself playing it?
Growing up, I'm the youngest of 4, and we had a PS2 growing up. So there was a lot of like there was only a handful of like party games that we all had that we could play together. And even then we didn't have the mod for 4 controllers on our PS2. So that was still even so limiting. So there was a lot of games that we would play. There was like Medal of Honor, stuff like that. There was a Star Wars game for the PS2. It was called The Clone Wars. I'm looking at it right now. We would play that together. I would watch them play that, but after a while, like my siblings just didn't care. So growing up, about the time I hit like middle school-ish is when I started like actually watching people in groups. I don't know if anybody remembers CinnaMAN, but he was like a really prominent Call of Duty content creator. I mean, he was just like really good at Call of Duty, and that's how he like made a name for himself back then, at least for me, was that you just play Call of Duty all the time. And he was really freaking good. And I just loved watching those like cheesy FaZe Clan edits, like just the 3D god-awful animations and crap like that, and like slow-mo on the headshot no scope that he did after 3,000 times of landing it type deal. But then like it grew into watching PewDiePie and Markiplier and even like Rooster Teeth to watch more games like Gmod and Call of Duty, like more Call of Duty, and like even Halo and other random games.
Yeah. Square Cobbler, what about you?
Yes, indeed. I do recall once upon a time there was an era before I myself laid hands on any one controller to play a game myself. But I think we're going to be talking about a game older than any we've discussed on Scrollies up to this point. The Atari game Adventure. McButcher would play this, and I have attempted to play it as well. It's a very cryptic game. You basically play as a square, and that square goes through a maze, and you get little items, kind of like a very rudimentary Zelda formula. Those items will help you progress and combat foes, but not all of them can be wielded at once. In fact, only one at a time. I've only ever been able to beat it on level 1 difficulty, the beginner mode, because I'm basic like that. But yeah, McButcher, I want to say you beat it on level 3. It's a longer game depending on which level you play on. Bigger number, the longer the game is. It probably takes around 10, 15 minutes at most. But that is the first game that I can remember watching someone else play, and I was entranced. I wanted to be said square myself.
Interesting.
Isn't that the game that they like talk about being the first Easter egg in Ready Player One?
Yes, it was the secret game in Ready Player One that they overlook initially, thinking, oh, we beat it and nothing happened. But no, you had to get the Easter egg in it, which I didn't even know was in there until I saw the movie.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, I think a second-person gaming, as far as, and I'm thinking, I want to look up this game. I want to see what it's about, because I have memories of that kind of stuff too, Atari stuff. To answer the question for myself of, what was a game, at least one of the first to remember. And I think as an experience of being a second-person gamer and experiencing something, I think my older brothers liked a lot of story-based games. And one of the first things I remember was we were spending a summer at college when my dad was finishing up his master's degree, and we rented the Rocketeer video game on Super Nintendo. And I remember watching that and it seemed like really obscure. Rocketeer's really cool. He's got a jetpack. For a moment, he has a gun. He flies around, does stuff. And I was like, that's a cool idea for a game. Why are we just in an airplane?
You could say...
Unfortunately, no, though, because it was a flying game. Like, you're just in a little stunt plane, and you're flying around, and it doesn't work because it's like flight, and it's a side-scrolly.
Side-scrolly, say no more. We covered that 2 years ago, right?
Well, the question I think I always remember, and there's probably more to it, but that's what I remember of it. of why don't we make a video game about Spider-Man, but just his job delivering pizzas on a scooter.
You joke, but that was, I think, an entire level or two of the Spider-Man 2 game. But as if that was the whole game. I catch your drift. That is remarkable. I wonder why you were so entranced by it, given how boring it was.
Something about it. I never tried to play it. I don't think I would.
This topic, I know it's a little strange. Second-person gaming is a concept, but when I first brought this up to CinnaMANToast, he thought I was referring to Super Mario 64.
Oh,
and I was like, no, I'm not. What? But I really want to know why he thought I was referring to Super Mario 64.
Literally, you simply sent 3 question marks and then went, you know what? No, save it. I want to hear you explain it on the podcast.
I really do. I want to hear this process, this train of thought.
So when you said second person gaming, I literally thought you meant like second person view. You know, there's first person, obviously, that is you are the person. You are inside the POV of the character you're playing. There's third person, which is over the shoulder. It's almost like a movie, like The Last of Us or God of War. And then there's second person, which is really freaking hard to explain, but it is the reason why I thought, or why I said Mario 64 is because I thought you were talking about second person view. And Mario 64 falls under that because you are technically in the perspective of Bowser watching Mario. Every time you die, you hear Bowser laugh because he's like witnessing you falling to your death, and he's like, haha, idiot. Because it's Lakitu, right? That's the character's name. That's like with the camera, he's following you around, and you are technically as Bowser watching the events of Mario. Yeah. You control Mario, sure, but you technically are not Mario. So that's why I was like, I'm gonna have to think of some second person view games like Mario 64. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
That's a short list right there, but I can appreciate the 4D galaxy brain thinking to reach that point.
There was also like a game called Driver.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that's funny. I was gonna say like to that. Yes, I too saw that TikTok.
Yeah, so I was like, this is gonna be a really hard episode because there's 2 or 3 like mainline games. Are we just gonna choose? I call dibs on 64. Like, there's my explanation. You're so welcome. I'm glad I was able to hold that on.
Makes sense.
Okay. It's funny because I also like that Driver of San Francisco, and it was really interesting. Literally, when I saw that you were talking about Super Mario 64, I was like, oh yeah, 100%. I know what you mean. Watching that from that perspective as well. And I think a lot of other games have done that too. Driver of San Francisco, as you're saying, where you are watching it like a car that is chasing another car that you're controlling, but you're watching the perspective from someone else. And I guess kind of what we're saying is that like most entertainment is in a way second person perspective of you. Hey, you just sit right there and we're going to entertain you. There is one Prophesied Scrollies episode that will be second person, which is the unreleased Code Synth Lost episode, where you, the listener, has to go in and decide what the questions are saying and interact with us. So that is coming. The second person podcast is coming soon.
Still on the docket. It's coming your way, listener. Just you wait. You're good at that at this point.
But as far as goes, I think eventually watching your brother, watching your dad, someone play a game, that really did evolve into kind of what we see as like the streaming space today. First, Cinna was saying probably Let's Play or some clips that were uploaded to YouTube, and eventually turned into, hey, let me interact with people as they're watching it. But I don't know. I think to me that just speaks to like our desire to just like not only play games but see someone do something that we've never done before, whether it's talent or not. And for me, like video games, I tried everything because my friends were like, no, you've got to play this game, no, that game sucked, you got to play Sonic, you can't play Super Mario.
There is a social aspect of it. It's almost like you're peer pressured into whatever your friend group is into playing. That's usually what your first foray into gaming is before you develop your own identity, so to speak. I can remember back in the heyday of handhelds, the GBA, the Game Boy Colors, PSPs even, they would be prevalent at school, despite the fact that many schools were frowning on them. We're saying, no, you can't bring that. They're so easy to bring along in your backpack that kids just did it anyway. Between friends, between brothers and sisters, just you get that experience of seeing someone else play something, usually single player, unless you were fortunate enough to have a link cable. So that's how you had to connect your systems at a point in time. Before wireless, the Zoomers wouldn't understand. Yeah. But it was a situation where you would see your friend playing something. You'd say, oh, wow, looking over their shoulder. What's that? That's cool. Tell me about that game. They'd show you a little bit of it. They'd probably be either terrible or super cracked and just breezing through it. And you're like, oh, wow, I can play that too. And then you try it. You're like, oh, man, I suck. But nonetheless, there's an aspect of that where you want to join in on the game. You want to join in on the fun. And I think that, especially in a pre-internet age, before gameplay was regularly being uploaded, that's generally how people got exposure to games that they didn't know.
I think one thing that definitely happens for me, and this is something like I was talking about with someone recently as well, is like, what is it about watching someone else play a game or seeing their experience that's so good? For example, there's so many of them that I like to watch just because I like to see, oh, how are they going to react to this story beat? Is this part of it going to make them cry? Oh, are they going to make the same mistake I am? Or is this jump scare going to get them? And they were like, no, I just like to watch to see how much better I am than them. What?
Calm down there, bucko.
And this goes into it. I don't know if you guys have had this experience as well of like, you start playing a new game, you're really excited, and the first person in the chat is like, yeah, I'm the world record holder on this game.
What are you doing here?
It's like, all right, Mr. Fortnite, why don't you chill down there, dog?
Looking upon you with the signature look of superiority.
Yeah,
touch grass, my guy. Like, but yeah, like, Squat, you were talking about just like bringing a Game Boy to school and whatnot, and like interacting with other people. Growing up homeschooled as well as anti-video game parents, I did not have that luxury.
Pouring one out for you.
Yeah. Growing up, we had the PS2. I still have my Game Boy Color and whatnot. I did have video games, but at the same time, my parents were super like, I hate you playing video games. And it's like, okay, you're mixed signals. But, I didn't have the recess block type deal of like, kids like letting you borrow games or like recommending you get a game and watching people play like that. If anything, it was church groups, homeschool groups, meeting some kids, seeing them when I go to their house or they come over. But ultimately, the place that I got most of my like second person gaming or just any sort of recommendations was through the probably why I have neck pain inducing demo stations such as Walmart and Toys R Us at the video game aisles, where you cranking that sucker 90 degrees up just to see the screen as you're playing a game, or watching other people play at those stations, like my siblings or just random kids, because no one cared back then. And that was how I was able to like get that experience. And so like I am quite jealous that you did have that experience.
I mean, it's marginally better than the black market, I suppose.
Only a little bit. It was like 2%. Like,
well, it's okay because you said I'm gonna play games on the internet when I grow up.
Yep, because I knew what the internet was back then. We had dial-up.
Man, definitely at that time too, though, because this would have been what, like 2004, 2005, around
ish.
Yeah, and that's when like it had started. If you had said as a kid like everything's going to be on the internet, I can see you having that kind of like forward thinking on it. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, like, I mean, with how little my parents let me play, as much as I wanted to at least, and with like how little I even knew what the internet was, like we barely used the internet. We used it for like AOL mail, and that was about it.
Look how far you've come.
And Netflix. We were very early adopters of Netflix DVDs as well.
The DVD in the mail, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
They finally boosted up our grandfathered rate, which is very unfortunate.
Oof.
Yeah. Corporate greed. I'm calling you out, Netflix. Granted, we are now in a different age where gameplay is easily accessible online, both recorded and live broadcast. I think all of us being streamers can relate to the fact that having people watch our games live, second person viewing them, allows for some entertaining scenarios, both on our end and theirs. It's definitely made it more accessible than it had been before, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love it. Not gonna lie.
I do as well. Though I think it comes with some trade-offs. Watching over long distances compared to times before, it makes it so in order to seek out this game yourself, you kind of just have to buy it outright, as opposed to just borrowing it like you might have in the past.
Yeah, and like, especially with how a lot of games are now starting to go digital only. Which, I mean, I feel like that's a whole nother episode right there, physical versus digital. I don't know, like, I both agree with you and disagree, because I don't think game sharing is dead. I will say it's nowhere near as common, especially with how prices are on games. Like, it'd be hard for me to be like, hey, I paid $60 for this game. I paid $70 for some of these games. Here, you can borrow it. There are people who I trust. I'd trust you guys if we like lived nearby type deal. I'd totally do that. But I feel like with the new day and age of just being able to look up anyone playing the game, you can look up Tommy Two Shoes off of, middle of bum F nowhere playing the game, posting it on YouTube. You can just watch anybody play any game, basically. It feels like no game is dead anymore because of the day and age that we have second person gaming, which is both really cool and also weird.
It is, and it provides a fresh perspective for people who might be playing an older game that we remember from way back when. Whereas I think at the time, after its heyday had passed, it was basically just like dead at that point. Like, yeah, you weren't going to see anyone playing that on the regular anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, with the retro community, with people doing their blind playthroughs, which we've discussed on the RatCon Live episode this past year, it's kind of given it a whole new life in a sense, because you can just pretty much search up any game from your childhood, and there's usually someone playing it for the first time somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't grow up with these retro systems. Growing up, the PS2 was the oldest system that I had outside of the Game Boy, and even then, I did not have a whole lot of like mainline games. I just had some like random games that my parents would let us have. They were not into Pokemon. I was not allowed to play it. I didn't have like really any Mario games. It was a weird situation I had there. Growing up, I wanted an N64. I wanted an SNES. Like, I wanted everything Nintendo. And you guys can see it, listeners back home will. Right here where my thumb is, that's my wife's GameCube that she kept.
Yeah.
And I just got Wind Waker for it recently.
Ooh. It's a game me and Ratnado met over.
Yeah.
I'm so excited because I've never been able to I've played demos of it at Walmart or Toys R Us type deal. Like, I've never actually played it, and I am so thrilled because I love Zelda. But if I really wanted to, I could watch anybody play that game. If I really wanted to experience that story, I could. My best friend did that because he knows that The Last of Us is my favorite game of all time. You heard me talk about it all the time. He hates the gameplay. He does not like it. He's bad at stealth. He is not great at aiming. He's great at like Red Dead Redemption and GTA, where like, how do you miss a shot in those games? But The Last of Us, where it like punishes you for missing and makes it still hard, he was like, I want this story, but I hate playing this game. I don't like the gameplay, but I love the story. So he literally watched someone play the entire game, and he got to experience the story, which is also, I think, such a cool thing that people can finally experience these games who never would have been able to.
Yeah, the Let's Play community online has definitely taken on a life of its own for people who probably either never pick up a controller or very rarely do, seeing some of the best stories ever told through the form of someone else playing them.
Yeah.
Have either of you like done that? I don't know if I've ever been like, this is a game I will never play, but I want to watch someone else. Is there a specific game you've done that with?
I did that recently, actually. So growing up, there was a turn-based strategy game that I could not get past at a certain point. It was Lord of the Rings: The Third Age. And I got to the Battle of Helm's Deep, but I couldn't make it past the end of the one of the fights, primarily because I'm not like, I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I was not an RPG guy. I did not know numbers. I literally went everything like best strength numbers, basically, is what I always was doing. I did not understand like defense and like healing and stuff like that. So like I couldn't make it past. And recently I literally was like, you know what? I want to know how that game freaking ended. I never beat it. I couldn't. I literally watched this some random dude who was like, yeah, so like there's nobody out there with gameplay of this. So I'm just going to beat it for you guys. And I was like, let's do it. Let's watch it. And I watched the entire game while I was like working for a few weeks. And it was awesome.
Interesting.
Goated legend.
Whatever that guy's name on YouTube. Thank you.
Yeah, shout out him. You know who you are.
You go look it up, and it's the one guy.
The ultimate plug right there. Absolute guy's gonna blow up.
Oh man, with the Scrollies bump. Get ready.
The coveted golden seal of approval. Scroll approval.
Have either of you ever had an experience where either you recommended something, someone recommended something to you, and it just did not pan out the way you were thinking it would?
I had someone recommend Elden Ring to me because I loved Hollow Knight, and it was not a good time. I couldn't do it. I tried so hard because the game is amazing. It's so beautiful. I love that it won Game of the Year. I hated playing it. My heart rate was at least 90, laying on the couch playing that game at all times. It wasn't even like during fights or anything. I couldn't do it.
I have an experience I would like to share about my own recommendation falling flat. This was back in high school. I had a friend who was coming over almost daily at a point, and he was like a full-blown like PlayStation, Xbox gamer. I was like pretty much exclusively Nintendo at that point. So you just, opposites attract, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'm gonna introduce you to one of my favorite series of all time through the game that I started playing it with, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, the Wii version, because the HD Wii U port hadn't come out yet. Motion controls, man, what a sell right there. He suffered through, I say suffered because he was not having a good time, through a good chunk of the game. I want to say he got at least all the way up through Arbiter's Ground, which is a bit over a halfway point, and just eventually dropped it. Was not at all interested in finishing the game. I don't know. I still think it's a good one to start out with Zelda, but I mean, hey, some people I guess just aren't about it.
Yeah, no, I can see that Twilight Princess being like, but it seems like somebody who maybe is into like Sony, PlayStation and stuff. That's like even like Sony coded. It looks great.
I would have thought it would have been a good pairing, but alas, it just wasn't meant to be.
Interesting.
Nintendo ever takes the Xbox route and goes multi-plat, then maybe then they'll have a chance to play.
Oh my gosh,
other Zelda titles.
Crazier things have happened. I don't know anything crazier, but I can't think of it. But I'm sure something crazier has happened. What I can think of is, I mean, it wasn't really necessarily my suggestion, but it was a suggestion that was heard and was carried out, and I got to see part of it. Squat Cobbler playing Metal Gear Solid 3. Finishing it, I saw the end of it. It is pretty satisfying. As I say, that's like my favorite thing to watch, is watch someone else play a game that I've already experienced and see if it hits the same way that it hit for me.
Indeed, you did watch a scuffed finale Discord stream, not even live on Twitch. It was on Discord, no sound. It was a Discord limitation where you couldn't have more than one audio source at a time, so I opted to have my mic in over the game. He was just looking at picture.
That's fair.
And listening to Hard Snake, because Hard Snake was in character playing through the finale.
I think a Light K-Fan was there too. Sorry,
Light K-Fan was
Liquid K-Fan.
Yeah, like I remember watching Lord Triborian play through The Last of Us Part 2. He had just beaten the first one very recently at that point, and myself and a couple of other of our buddies were like, you should play the Part 2. It's great. I think you'll like it. And we warned him. We were like, Last of Us Part 1 will make you feel happy for the most part. Like, you'll be pretty like, yeah, that was good. Like, there's definitely moments of hardness, but like overall, you're like, okay, that was great. I feel good. But at the end of The Last of Us Part 2, like, you will feel. You're just gonna feel. So he was like, okay. And he was maybe an hour away from beating the game. And he goes, I think I'm going to end stream here. And I said, you are like 45 minutes maybe away from beating the game. He goes, actually, really? I was like, yes, go ahead, just do it. And like, I'm in chat. I'm like, just do it, man. Go for it. And he goes, I can do that. And so he played it and he beat it within an hour from that point. And like seeing him experience, and he was like in shambles, exactly like I was at the final fight and the cutscene and everything. Like it was a truly incredible moment. But like I resonated so hard with what you were saying, Rat, where like when I see people play a game that I love, I love to see how they react to certain things, because I get really emotional. I will cry at games. I have cried several times in several games. And so it's very interesting to see, is someone going to be as emotional as I was? Are they going to react? Are they going to receive that? Are they going to think similarly, or are they going to hate it? Are they going to be completely against it? Are they going to have completely total, because like no one is the same. And it's always cool to see opposing or differing views on situations like that, and I love it.
To me, that's one of the biggest arguments of just like the video games are art, is because something that can touch you, even if it's just we bond over the emotions of it, or seeing I didn't know you felt that way about things, seeing a streamer that I don't really know break down over something, or even seeing like a friend, that's really cool, I noticed that thing too. Incredible. Or it can be you recommending Donkey Kong 64 to me, and
Final Fantasy VI still on the table right now, whenever you want to request one.
The pain that falls. No, I love DK64. I kind of want to replay it, actually. I've been thinking about it.
No way.
I really do enjoy it.
There's a randomizer of it now, just saying.
I do. If it's on Archipelago, who knows? Potentially. Speaking of second-person gaming, CinnaMAN, as you noted, there is now a CinnaWOMAN in your life. And
there is
she, I was my question, is she much of a gamer? And if not, how does that second person gaming fit into your life with her?
Yeah, so first of all, I did get married back in October, and she will say she's not a gamer. And that's not terribly incorrect, but it's also still not true at all. Because one, girl is on like level 1,000 of Candy Crush. She's a grandmother at heart. Homegirl is in bed by 9 p.m. She plays Candy Crush religiously, and she knits and crochets and bakes. It's awesome, dude. But when she does play games, she's very casual. So she has a Switch Lite. She loves to play Animal Crossing on that. She loves to play Mario Kart as well. When she had her second ankle surgery, we played so much LAN on our Switches and just had some good times there. But when she finishes her master's in March, we're planning on playing It Takes Two off stream, like just here and there. So she is not opposed to gaming. She doesn't play hardly at all in general, but also like she's a little too busy. But yeah, I'll watch her play Candy Crush and I'm like, I don't understand anything that, like, I understand you make like connections of 3 or more. I don't understand how you beat a level right now. I'm like, so what do you do here? She's like, oh yeah, so if you break, this happens, and then when this happens, and I'm like, why is Candy Crush complicated? Why is there a skill gap in Candy Crush?
Everyone, I just want to acknowledge that this is now the 3rd time of 3 appearances that It Takes Two has been brought up by CinnaMANToast. Everyone, round of applause for CinnaMAN. He did it. Game of the Year winning It Takes Two, a multiplayer game, may I remind you.
They said it couldn't be done, but it did. It was done. It has been done.
Who said it?
3 for 3.
Who said this?
They.
Okay, all right.
They doubted, but we prevailed.
Yeah.
Now, Cinna, with CinnaWOMAN's, we'll just say relatively casual gaming experience, do you ever partake in the second-person viewing of said gameplay?
Of hers or just in general?
Of hers.
I will watch her build her island in New Horizon whenever she's playing. But most of the time, it's very rare that I'll be watching Candy Crush because I barely understand and I ask too many questions, apparently. Apparently that's such a thing when it comes to Candy Crush. And then whenever she's playing Mario Kart, it's typically with me. Like, we are both playing Mario Kart, so it's rare that I'm ever just watching her, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's very different the other way around. She loves to watch me play. She's actually huge on some of the stories that I play. So much so that a couple of nights ago, I was playing a game and she goes, "Can you play something with a story?" Absolutely, sweetheart. Ghost of Tsushima it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, we, in fact, here on the Scrollies podcast have an exclusive with CinnaWOMAN. She's very reclusive. She doesn't make appearances publicly. She won't answer herself, but nonetheless, we have obtained the CinnaWOMAN's responses. Through CinnaMANToast, we have some questions that have been provided ahead of time, and they have been answered, these being in response to what it's like to witness CinnaMANToast play games, second person. Ratnado, would you like to provide the first of these questions?
Question 1. Not if we know what's happening, but how does CinnaMAN rage at games?
Yeah, I do take a little bit of offense to that.
Answer the question.
We saw you break your monitor on stream. You can't deny it.
I was aiming away from the screen, if that makes any consolation to my side.
It doesn't.
Off stream, before, I don't even know if I was streaming at the time, I actually broke a Joy-Con from a game.
Good. Break all of them, for all I care.
To be fair, how hard is that to do? How does Cinna rage at games? To which she replied, screaming. Physical violence against the controller, and therefore my kneecap. She said groveling / clenched teeth, to which she quoted, I don't want to take a break because I will be playing said game that I broke my Joy-Con on, Hollow Knight.
Oh my. Yeah.
I've been obsessed with that lately. Been playing it on my PS5 as my second run through, because I've beaten it once on the Switch, and then I was like, I got it for free on PlayStation Plus, so I was like, I'm gonna play this game again because I freaking loved it, no matter how much I hated it. And I will be getting really pissed off and frustrated and be like, are you freaking kidding me? And she goes, do we need to take a break? To which I reply, I don't want to take a break. And it's typically her going, I know you don't want to. Do you need to? The physical violence against the controller is usually me like squeezing and you just hear the rattling. There's been times where I've like tossed it and it hit her kneecap. Not thrown in like rage. It was just like, I give up, toss the controller, and it's all of a sudden you hear like the hardest plastic against bone will crack, and she was like, ow. And I was like, I'm so sorry. To which it happened twice in a row because I was trying I tried to do it
as if you didn't learn the first time.
I tried to throw it farther, but it bounced off the couch and hit me. So yeah, we took a break from Hollow Knight that night.
Hollow Knight's a pretty difficult game, leading us to our second question. Ratnado,
is it difficulty or skill issue on Cinna's part that leads him to rage, I'm guessing?
She said, with not an ounce of sarcasm in her voice, it's obviously the game mechanics that are out to get you. It's never your fault. If you mention dodging in The Last of Us Part 2 again, I swear.
Okay, there it is. I was going to say, at first I was like, wow, that's really supportive. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I think we're missing the tone of this. Obviously.
But yeah, no, she straight up has told me, she's like, the game is not out to get you, Roger. It is a game. It can't do that.
Indeed it can't. And you mentioned The Last of Us, which leads us into our final question.
Staple games seen regularly in the Cinna household.
Yeah, so obviously The Last of Us, especially recently The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, because got the Wolf Edition for Christmas. Super happy about that. On top of that, it has been Hollow Knight a lot because I am addicted. I might actually go for the platinum because I think I'm like clinically depressed or something. I'm not really sure.
Me too.
I am going to therapy, thankfully. Yeah, so like Hollow Knight, The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, but soon Ghost of Tsushima. Like literally last night, I started a second run through of the game, and she has heard me record an episode on a different podcast about the Ghost of Tsushima, and she's heard me talk about it a lot, but she's never seen it. So I was like looking through all the games that I had through PlayStation Plus, all the other games I could get, and then I was looking at that and I was like, you know what, that's samurai.
Yeah.
I want to be a samurai. I'm the ghost.
Yeah.
I'm the ghost.
CinnaWOMAN, from now on, for the next week or two, refer to me as Samurai.
All right. Everyone, the words straight from CinnaWOMAN's mouth, repeated verbatim by CinnaMANToast. Thank you.
Don't
Thank
shoot
you.
the messenger.
Amazing.
Just slap their knees with the Joy-Con.
I was gonna say, do we need to like send some knee pads or something, or
Protective gear for the raging.
we'll even brand it. We'll put the CinnaMANToast branded for friends and family of rage gamers.
Cinnapads.
As always, thank you so much for the third time, and I guess in as many years. CinnaMAN, thank you so much. One of our first guest ever, our last guest ever. No, just kidding.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much for stopping on by. Good discussion as always. Good to hear how you're feeling about things. And hey, isn't it really great to experience things through CinnaMANToast's eyes? A second person perspective, if you will.
It certainly is, given the fact he's back, everyone. He's back streaming.
It's the year of the gluten, as I say.
That could have a lot of meanings.
Amen. No, I'm so excited to be back, both in streaming and here. Like, thank you again for having me here. It's been really fun. I love talking video games with everybody and anyone, and especially y'all. You guys are very knowledgeable on what you guys talk. You guys bring a lot to the table. It's very well done. It's very structured, and I appreciate you guys always having me on here.
Your check's in the mail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Waffles also appreciates being on here, as she is tingling up in my headphone cords. Waffles is a very vocal cat.
That's Waffle saying, wrap it up.
Yeah.
Hey, Waffles, what do you want to say something to the viewers? To the listeners? Do you think they should subscribe to Scrolly's podcast? I think that totally means yes.
As she squirms out of your...
Thanks so much. Check out CinnaMANToast on his Twitch stream. I am Team Ratnado. Come hang out. I'm streaming in the mornings. Random different things. Fire Emblem, Three Houses, Craftopia, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite with What Star. Sometimes Solazor and DD Bash are there too. I'm here with my co-host, Squat Cobbler.
It is I, everyone, and I'm happy to say that the Raretrospective is Rareware developed games, making our way through a good selection of their library. That's what we're going to be doing throughout the remainder of 2024, all to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the DK Revolution this November on twitch.tv/SquatCobbler, youtube.com/@SquatCobblerLive.
Amazing. Keep checking in. Things are happening now. You may be hearing some of your other favorite peoples and people you don't know about. Thanks for listening to Scrollies as always. And I'm Team Nartnado. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.
Goodbye. I did get married back in October, which I think is 5 months ago. I don't know. I just know the day.
As long as you have the date down.
I don't know the months in order. Look, every streamer has that one "you can't be that stupid" thing. Mine is I don't know the months in order and what number they are. So like
That's pretty stupid, not gonna lie.
I don't know. What
How'd you graduate preschool?
I mean, like, what purpose does that serve me to know that crap?
You were trying to just be like cute and silly, and Squat's like, no, that's bad.
Yeah, that's pretty
You should know
stupid.
that.